Hello everyone. Today, we embark on an inspiring journey to explore the difference between hard work and smart work. This is the story of two young boys, Robbie and Sujan, each with a different approach to achieving success. Who will emerge
as the winner? And what valuable lesson awaits us? Let's find out together.
In a small village, there was an old school filled with knowledge where teacher Shrimant Babu taught. He was a dedicated, honest, and experienced teacher. Even though he was nearly 70 years old, he was always enthusiastic about sharing knowledge with his students. Among his pupils, there were two very special boys, Robbie and Sujan. Both were intelligent and had potential, but they had completely different approaches to life. Robbie was the son of a middle-class family with no concerns about money or farming. He dedicated all his time to studying, believing that only hard work could lead to success. He read and reread books, memorized formulas, and spent hours solving difficult problems. For Robbie, nothing was more important than studying, and he was willing to work relentlessly to achieve his dreams. On the other hand, Sujan was the son of a poor farmer. Every day he worked on the fields with his father, and only in the evenings did he have time to sit under the dim oil lamp to study. His father, Hari, always worried about his son's future. He didn't believe that education could change their lives. One evening, as Sujan was buried in his books after a long day of work, his father sighed and said, "Son, you know our family situation. We are poor, and poor people don't have many choices. Do you think education can change anything?" Sujan looked up at his father with determined eyes. "Father, I know we are poor, but if I don't study, we will always be poor. I am not studying to make money. I am studying to change our fate." Hari silently looked at his son. He knew Sujan was not one to give up easily, but he also worried about his son's uncertain future. Nevertheless, that night, Sujan continued studying, determined not to let poverty stand in the way of his dreams. One day, teacher Shrimant Babu gathered the class and announced a special challenge for Robbie and Sujan. "You two are the best students in my class. I have a final test to challenge you. Your task is to climb to the top of the western mountain and pick a special flower. Whoever brings it back first will be the winner." Robbie and Sujan both agreed immediately. The next morning, Robbie began his journey. He rushed forward, running at full speed despite the scorching heat. The rough terrain made the climb difficult, but Robbie didn't hesitate. He sweated, exhausted, but kept climbing, believing that with enough effort, he would win. Meanwhile, Sujan was not in a hurry. He stopped, observed his surroundings, and thought. He knew that climbing the mountain the usual way would be very tiring. As he passed a small hut at the foot of the mountain, he met an old man sitting on the porch. Sujan politely asked, "Sir, is there an easier way to the top of the mountain?" The old man smiled. "There is a small path behind the mountain, less steep and easier to walk. If you take that path, you will save a lot of energy." Sujan thanked the old man and immediately followed the indicated path. Thanks to this, he didn't have to exert much effort to climb and quickly made his way toward the top. Robbie continued his arduous journey. He stumbled, fell several times, but never gave up. Finally, after much effort, he reached the top of the mountain. But as he stepped forward, he was stunned to see Sujan already on his way down with the flower in hand. He couldn't believe his eyes. "How could this be? I worked so hard, non-stop, and yet he reached the finish line before me." When they returned to school, teacher Shrimant Babu smiled at them and said, "Robbie, you worked very hard, but you didn't find a way to make your work more efficient. You thought that the harder you worked, the more successful you would be. But life is not just about hard work, it's about working smart. He turned to Sujan. Sujan, you used your intellect to find an easier way, but remember that there's not always a shortcut. Working smart only succeeds when combined with real effort. Robbie lowered his head, his voice subdued. I understand. Now, teacher, hard work alone is not enough. We need the right strategy. Sujan also nodded. I understand too that if you only seek an easy way without effort, success will not be sustainable. The teacher placed his hand on their heads and said, This lesson will stay with you for life. Success doesn't come just from hard work or intelligence, but from a perfect balance of both. Years later, Robbie became a great scientist. He had learned to apply both perseverance and intelligence in his research work. Sujan, on the other hand, became a successful entrepreneur, using creativity and hard work to build a solid career. One day, both returned to their old school to meet teacher Shrimant Babu. By now, he was old and frail, but still wore a gentle smile. When he saw his two students, he couldn't hide his happiness. Teacher, Robbie and Sujan said together, your final test helped us succeed in life. We are forever grateful to you, teacher Shrimant. Babu's eyes welled up with tears. I
Always knew you would become great people.
The secret to success is not complicated. It's the perfect balance between hard work and intelligence. Robbie and Sujan stood silent, looking at their beloved teacher with deep gratitude. They realized that the most important lesson they ever learned was not from books, but from life itself, under the guidance of a great teacher. Hard work is important, but it must be combined with smart thinking. Don't just seek shortcuts, because success doesn't come from laziness. Working with strategy helps save time and effort. Sustainable success requires perseverance and creativity. I sincerely thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. Your support and interest are a great motivation for me to continue bringing more interesting and meaningful content in the future. Thank you so much.